Hello, everyone. As Mario told you, I need 3 of you to help investigate the cracks in the void further. The ones related to the areas in your minds as you roam during your fantasy football contests. This will help us identify who sent the transmissions and possibly find the weakest point in the void for us to find whoever this is and escape with them. I need the ones who call themselves Risky Business, Pounders, and Minerva's Minions. You seem to be the most powerful conduits of the energies surrounding you with your amazing records. Risky Business, you were 6-1 during your regular season at home when your mind sends you to Sydney, 1842.
That's enough of that, Franklin. Post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C. is one thing, but now am I in some soul-sucking void?
I understand your struggles, but remember, Obsitan's Abyssus possessed me to trap us all, and there are gaping cracks forming in this void, splinters that could crumble the fabric of time and space, stretching it too thin to function in its quest to consume. Scary, isn't it?
I see your point. All right. Risky Business on board. What do you need me to do?
Well, you will sit there quietly and listen. I was in the middle of explaining everything when you interrupted. Now if I can continue? Good. Pounders and Minerva's Minions, you were both 5-2 in your home areas. I believe Beijing 3145 and Rome 1890 are 2 other important pieces to this.
Hey, Franklin, right? I need to ask you something.
I guess that's okay. What do you need to know?
I woke up and met you and Mario and everyone else in the league, and I started to play to win the Green Bowl. I feel like I am almost becoming the players on my team. Is this life, or am I dreaming?
Oh, yes. The Green Bowl always needs 12 people attached to it, so it created you to fill the space. Some sort of elder magic. And before you ask, yes, this technically means this league is your god. But don't worry about that right now. At least you weren't the poor former league member who now ceases to exist. But that's what we're trying to avoid. Now moving on to the matter at hand.
Hold on. Can I say something now? Everybody else was able to talk.
Okay. What do you want to say to me?
Well, I was chased by a horrible creature in a strange world with fairies and evil goblins. I was at the incredibly insane lighthouse in the future, too. And then I had to freeze in some ice caves, and you never once told me that you thanked me for starting this league, so you could win championships in the far future with all your Shadow Brigade friends.
Listen here, Minerva's Minions. Do you not understand that you started a league not by yourself, but with the Elder Magic tied to a trophy that keeps the league going no matter what? This league has and will always exist somewhere in some dimension.
So you're saying I'm a legend?
Minerva's, you will be if you shut up and listen. Yes? Can I move on now? Good. Now, as I was saying, I've tapped my consciousness into each crack tied to your home area, with the help of Mario, of course, and I will help you dive even deeper. Now, as I call out your area, tell me what you see. Rome, 1890.
I see a man. No. It's a mist. Or fog. I see something else. It's chasing him. Please. We must save him.
Interesting. You notice it is a man, not just a mist, and you clearly saw something sinister chasing him. This means we do not have much time. Next, Beijing 3145.
Whoa. Not sure what's happening right now. Life is crazy. There's some sort of monster going after some dude. He's hiding. Wait. He's one of us. We must save him. We must.
One of us? I think this means you recognize a connection in the space-time continuum. We must be closing in on the signal. Sydney, 1842. Bring us home.
I see an old-timey person, a 1920s detective hiding from certain death, an odd creature bearing down on him. I also see a room of people, a redhead, two redheads.
Constance. And Constance? Uh-oh. Looks like we need to hurry. I think something bad's about to happen.
Who am I? Wait. I'm Daryl Watson. How did I forget that? Someone help me. The horror from beyond is here.
I sure hope the Green Bowl champion is crowned soon.
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball, lost in dreamlands. And here we are, the week everyone dreams about during the draft. Whenever we join this league, it's what we all care about. It's the time to put it all together one last time and to stake a claim in the halls of league legends by fighting for the championship. All of the bye-week hells, injuries, close matches, battles for playoff spots and division titles, epic playoff battles, lineup decisions we love and hate. All of it comes down to this 1 week. And in our league's 10th season, we might have a third two-time champion or another first-time champion. That's right, everyone. It's time for the... And this time we get 11-5 and 4th-seeded Pounders taking on 10-5 and 2nd-seeded Remember the Titans in the tunnel to the underground. This is the 17th week of the season, over 4 months of action. What your team was in week 1 is a distant memory, and what it did last week is old news. But the journey is important. It shows you how you handled adversity, how you made it through those rough weeks. Big injury? No problem. You hit the waiver wire in time. Bye week struggles? It's okay. You had other guys step up. Especially from your bench. Lost a few weeks in a row? It's cool. You weathered the storm, kept with your plan, and got back on track. All things needed to advance to the game of games, the Green Bowl. So how did Pounders and Remember the Titans get here? Let's begin with the 4th-seeded Pounders. The one with the unconventional Dan Campbell in his coaching prowess, drafting 2 quarterbacks back-to-back in the 2nd and 3rd rounds in a 1-quarterback league. He then took a 3rd quarterback later on and never traded any of them, rarely choosing the best quarterback on his roster in a given week. But the strategy hasn't actually hurt him. He has survived with the compliments on his team and the coaching moves to shore up his bench when he needs to. He went from number 11 in the power rankings way back in week 1 all the way up to number 1 at one point, and he looks to finish on top now. 11-5 after the semifinal win last week, but the season is interesting when you look at how everything went. He started 2-2, won 6 straight, and then dropped 3 of the last 4 to end up missing out on the Asia Pacific Void title. But since, he's put on an impressive display in 2 high-scoring playoff games. Averaging 108.84 points per week is a strong indication of how tough it has been to get a win against this squad. In fact, 4 of the 5 losses were because the opponent dropped 120 points on them. But there is one loss that stands out. The Green Bowl opponent. Remember the Titans. Pounders fell 102.18 to 60.2 back in week 4 when both teams looked drastically different. Pounders has now lost Chris Godwin for the season and has been carried by quarterback and running back play with just enough from his remaining wide receivers, including draft pick of the year candidate Jackson Smith-Njigba. But remember the Titans added A.J. Brown and Cortland Sutton since then, only getting stronger. Still, remember the Titans also had a strange journey after an amazing first half of the season. They dropped the first game before rumbling off 6 straight wins, including against Pounders, My Minerva's Minions, and More Than Conquerors, all playoff teams. Then came a stretch that made things a little interesting with 3 losses in 4 games, including against other playoff teams in Low-Key Lebowski Thor and Risky Business. Luckily, they played in the worst division and went 2-1 in the final 3 games to shore up the title and the number 2 overall seed. This is a team that scored 148.18 points in week 3, which was the top score by any team for much of the season. And then they averaged about 108.7 points per week. But there were a lot of low-scoring ones in the rough stretch of the second half, dealing with buys, an A.J. Brown injury, inconsistent quarterback play, and because Malik Neighbors plays on the awful New York Giants. None of it mattered in the end after one of the greatest high-scoring battles in league history in the semifinals led to the 144.44 to 144.4 win over my Minions. Just another chapter in a long history of success in this league for Remember the Titans. Pounders is a league rookie. While they have history on their side with all the league rookies who have won the title in the years prior, this time they play Remember the Titans, who looks to join the list of 2-time champions to cement themselves as one of the greatest in the quests for the Green Bowl. Will Remember the Titans finish the job and be a chosen one for the 2nd time in 4 years in their 3rd Green Bowl appearance? Or will Pounders spoil the party and show everyone they belong in the conversation of legends already? Let's break down the rosters and find out. We begin with the quarterbacks, and for Pounders, I kind of have to talk about all 3 on the roster in that we really don't know who he's ultimately going to play. Of course, this is being taped before any of the games are played on Christmas Day, so I also don't know, how Lamar Jackson did or anything like that. But Josh Allen is obviously the clear star. He's in the starting lineup for now. Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson might be the top stars on any other roster. Jackson actually has the most points out of all 3 this season, 453.98 points. It's kind of surprising, to be honest. He has 40 total touchdowns. That's crazy. Just 4 interceptions. That's why he's got so many points. 3,787 passing yards and 765 rushing yards. Allen's right behind him, though, 410.06 points, 38 total touchdowns, 6 interceptions only, 3,549 passing yards and 514 rushing yards. Then there's Daniels, 365.82 points as a rookie. That's amazing. He has 28 total touchdowns, just 8 interceptions, 3,303 passing yards, and 737 rushing yards. You see the craziness with all those stats? All mobile quarterbacks who can do damage with their legs and arms. Matchup-wise, Daniels actually has the best matchup against the Falcons, who are 6th worst against quarterbacks, allowing 29 total touchdowns. This includes 5 by Sam Darnold a few weeks ago and 4 by Bo Nix just pretty recently too in the second half of the season. Remember, the Titans has Brock Purdy in the lineup right now with his matchup against the Lions. The Lions are surprisingly 12th best against quarterbacks, only allowing multiple passing touchdowns 3 times, but those games are in 3 of the last 4 weeks and includes Caleb Williams twice. Injuries on the Lions have forced them into more shootouts lately as well, and they've allowed over 325 passing yards the past 2 weeks against Josh Allen and Williams. The edge is Pounders, but remember the Titans doesn't need Purdy to drop 40. He needs about 20 to 25 by Purdy and to limit the damage on the other side. Anything else is a bonus. And Purdy's been okay this season, 21 total touchdowns. He does have 10 interceptions. 3,487 passing yards and 311 rushing yards, so he's actually done a little bit with his legs. Moving on to running backs, Pounders has 3 of them in this matchup right now, including in his flex, James Cook, Breece Hall, and James Conner. Cook and Conner have been his best backs, which is wild when you learn that Hall was the 2nd overall fantasy pick this season. They are 7th and 8th in running back points respectively. Cook has 215.6 points with 1,186 total yards and 16 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns. Conner has 206 points, 1,419 total yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 two-point conversions. Hall is the 18th overall running back. He has 163.4 points, 1,234 total yards, and 7 touchdowns. He also has a 2-point conversion. The best matchup out of those 3 belongs to Hall. The Bills' defense is 9th worst against running backs, allowing 16 total touchdowns and over 130 total yards a game to running backs. For remember the Titans, they got 2 guys right now. Jahmyr Gibbs, who is suddenly the top guy in Detroit with David Montgomery out, and Chuba Hubbard. Gibbs is 3rd overall for running backs, 248.6 points. That is insanity because he's actually shared carries with Montgomery all year. He might actually be better than Barkley when you think about that with his efficiency. He has 1,596 total yards and 15 touchdowns, and now he's going to get the majority of carries. Hubbard has surprisingly come out of nowhere this season to become the 10th best running back. He has 1,366 total yards and 11 touchdowns. He also has a 2-point conversion. Gibbs has the best matchup of the 2, though. The 49ers are 10th worst against running backs, allowing over 120 total yards per game and 17 total touchdowns. The edge at running back is mixed, but Gibbs might be the best out of anyone on these rosters. So remember the Titans is going to look to get a huge advantage here. Now we move on to the wide receivers. Pounders has Jackson Smith and Jigba and Xavier Worthy. Smith and Jigba has become the 7th best wide receiver this season, 148.5 points, and when you think about his draft pick, that's why he's one of the draft picks of the year candidates. He has 1,111 total yards, also has 35 passing yards. He's reached the end zone 6 times. Worthy is the 30th best wide receiver with 114.3 points, 907 total yards and 4 touchdowns, not including whatever he did on Christmas Day. Neither has a good matchup this week. The Bears are 11th against wideouts, and the Steelers are 15th against wideouts. Both play on short weeks, though, which might mean matchups are not as easily defined. And of course, I mentioned Worthy has already played before this was taped, so we already know what he did. And, that'll kind of change these projections, so we'll see what happens. Remember, the Titans has the number 1 wide receiver in Jamar Chase. I mean, this guy is a beast. Chase has 259.2 points, the clear star here. He has 1,542 total yards and 16 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns. He also has A.J. Brown, who is the 9th best wide receiver with 1,043 yards and 6 scores. Though the injury to Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett will need to be watched. as a third-string quarterback could be throwing A.J. Brown's way, which would obviously bring his floor down. Next, Cortland Sutton is the 17th best wide receiver this season. 30 passing yards and a touchdown, so he's done it with that too on a trick play. Also has 928 receiving yards and 6 receiving touchdowns. Chase is matchup proof with a high floor, but Sutton has the best matchup going against the Bengals. The Bengals are 19th against wide receivers, but also usually get into shootouts, which makes all teams pass the ball more. They allowed 14 receiving touchdowns this season as well. The edge here clearly goes to remember the Titans, and is probably the spot Pounders needs to limit the damage the most by getting enough by Worthy and Smith and Jigba. The tight ends, kickers, and defenses are also important, especially in this kind of a matchup. Brock Bowers has a clear edge over Isaiah Likely for Pounders. Bowers is the second best tight end, actually, in fantasy. 1,081 total yards and 4 touchdowns. It's just tight ends have been rough this year, so that'll get it done. Likely has 430 yards and 5 touchdowns, so he's obviously touchdown dependent. Both matchups aren't great on paper, but the Saints are in bad shape on offense, which might mean more short fields for the Raiders that obviously will give Bowers more chances at touchdowns. We don't know what Likely did while we're taping, but we will know what he did by the time this airs, so you'll have to check to see what happened. Chase McLaughlin has a great matchup against Carolina and could drop double-digit points as a kicker for Remember the Titans. Jake Bates goes up against San Francisco and is usually limited if the Lions keep scoring touchdowns, so we'll have to watch that. But Bates is the 6th best kicker this season in fantasy. McLaughlin's right behind him in 8th. Both can kick 50-plus yarders. We might get double-digit points by both here. Defensively, the advantage is clearly on Remember the Titans side. The Colts play the Giants, which just allowed Atlanta to drop 28 points on them. A big reason why Remember the Titans survived the semifinals against my Minions. The Bills get the Jets, which is also a good matchup, expected to bring double-digit points. But the Jets at least have playmakers that, they like to get some points, especially in garbage time. This one might be one of the biggest spots for Pounders when we look at all of this. He's going to hope Drew Lock doesn't throw like a fool again. And we've said it. This one's expected to be a similar matchup to all of our other playoff games that has happened. High scoring, wild. Both teams expected to score close to 110 points, with Remember the Titans receiving a 59.7% chance to win. It could be the cherry on top of all-timers we've had this postseason. There's also the question, though, of who will be the Green Bowl MVP. The winning team gets to crown that Green Bowl MVP. Any one of Pounders' quarterbacks can put up huge numbers, but the MVP also includes other playoff games, despite a big emphasis on the big one, of course. James Conner and James Cook are both the front runners at this moment if Pounders wins. Cook has 49 points in the playoffs. Conner has 47 points. They've both been scoring over 20. Remember, the Titans also has 2 running backs as the top candidates for Green Bowl MVP after last week. Chuba Hubbard had over 28 last week. Jamar Gibbs with over 21. And of course, Gibbs is probably going to get a lot more carries this week. But don't forget about Jamar Chase. He had 16.4 points last week and could always drop 40 or 50 and could easily be the Green Bowl MVP. The crazy thing is we might have multiple guys step up in this one in what may be the closest Green Bowl MVP race in league history. What else is new? Of course, the Green Bowl is everything, but we do have place matches with draft picks and other things on the line for us, including pride. Let's look at the projections of the other battles going on in the best of the rest. Bowl with 5-10 Air Jordan taking on 4-11 the Overcomers. The winner gets the top pick in the 2025 draft, and this one will be in Miami 29-35. The losing team settles for the 4th pick in the draft, and the shame of being the dick butt for a whole season, plus a shot of Malort maybe. The overcomers come in with a 61.5% chance to win. Caleb Williams versus CJ Stroud, Derrick Henry versus Javonte Williams, Cooper Kupp versus Keenan Allen, and the Commanders' defense versus the Lions' defense are spots to watch. The 9th place match brings us the 2023 champion 6-10 Green Acres, traveling to Mexico City 1955 to take on 6-9 the Stellar Bitches, with the number 2 overall pick in 2025 on the line. The losing team will get the 5th pick. Green Acres comes in with a 72.7% chance to win. Bryce Young versus Jared Goff, Jerome Ford versus Najee Harris, Puka Nacua versus Zay Flowers, and the Jaguars versus 49ers defenses are the areas to watch. Next, we get the consolation final, with both teams looking for their second consolation title in their league careers, which would actually be a league record. 7-9, the Clash at Demon Head travels to Moscow 24-35 to take on the 7-8 Elite Mother Tuckers. The Elite Mother Tuckers are actually trying to win their second straight consolation title and have a 55% chance to win. A lot on the line here. The winner gets the 3rd pick in 2025 and half their league fee back. The losing team gets the 7th pick in 2025. Justin Herbert versus Jordan Love, Bijan Robinson and Devon Achane versus Jonathan Taylor and Brian Robinson, and Brian Thomas versus Jameson Williams are the places to watch. Moving on to the 5th place match, 8-7 Low-Key Lebowski Thor hosts 8-7 More Than Conquerors in Berlin 1929. The winning team gets their league fee back plus the 8th pick in 2025. The losing team gets half their league fee back and the 12th pick in 2025. Both teams have injuries to deal with. Lebowski Thor is probably going to be without Elvin Kamara this week, and Jalen Hurts is not a guaranteed starter at this moment either as he battles a concussion. More Than Conquerors is hoping Isaac Guerrero is back, but does have a slight 58.7% chance to win. Joe Mixon versus Chase Brown, CeeDee Lamb versus Tyreek Hill, Zach Charbonnet versus DK Metcalf, and the Chargers versus Denver defenses are the areas to watch. Lastly, we get a 3rd place match with two teams so close to meeting in the Green Bowl themselves, as my 9-7 Minerva's Minions travels to Sydney 1842 to take on 11-4 Risky Business. The losing team still gets their league fee back, but settles for the 11th pick in 2025. The winning team gets 1.5 league fees from the pot, and the 9th pick in 2025. They call this one a 50-50 toss-up right now, so it's expected to be a high-scoring and close one, just like the semifinals and quarterfinals and probably Green Bowl. Patrick Mahomes versus Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley versus Kyron Williams, Bucky Irving versus Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Justin Jefferson, and Terry McLaurin versus Mike Evans are huge areas in this one. Don't sleep on the Seahawks versus Eagles defensive battles. This is our 10th Green Bowl, a decade of play in our league, and based on the storylines and the results this season, I only expect another great all-time finish. And with the possibility of a Monday night finish again, can we come close to the insanity that took place in the semifinals? It's very possible. Of course, the champion, besides the Green Bowl and the legend and all that stuff with that traveling trophy, they get half of the total league fees, while the losing team gets 1.5 league fees from the pot. The champion also gets the 10th pick in 2025, with the losing team getting the 6th pick. And of course, we all play with a lot on the line, including draft position and momentum for next season. Anyone not in the Green Bowl wants to be there in 2025, and we'll certainly start thinking about that as soon as the dust settles this week. And that's the show! Hope you enjoyed it. We're down to just 2 episodes, and obviously we'll crown our Green Bowl champion next week. Amazing how these years close so quick. Before you go, check out the updated playoff bracket. And until next time, salut.